Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. You are watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. Today, I wanted to show you my continuing efforts to conserve or restore the finish of a lovely Singer sewing machine table that is going to hopefully once again house the machine it originally was purchased with, and that is the amazing and incredible Singer 201, which also sports, you can see it there, a Centennial badge, which is on the other side. Um, and I've been showing all of you this because, you know, sewing machine cabinets and tables, um, some people really care about, preserving them. They're not rare. This table is, if you look at this design, you've probably seen this one many times. This would have been it wasn't the smallest table. Actually, one of the tables Singer had that was actually a little less wide um, was for the Singer 99 and the Singer 185. However, generally for most of your full-size sewing machines, this was one of the tables you could order. Now you could order it in different woods, and of course there were veneered versions such as this one, and they would be covered in anything from walnut to mahogany to maple, cherry. You had your pick, and of course there were lots of price points, different cost levels people had, but you had to pay extra for these. And these tables generally were very well cared for by the original owners, as were the machines, because the original owner had to purchase, their household had to pay for these items, and they were crazy expensive if you were to buy them in today's dollars. So when I got this table, I've shown you in earlier videos. If you haven't seen them, take a look. Um, you should see these videos are going to be posted in the Sewing Table and Cabinet series. And what I was showing in earlier videos is that there was this sort of a crazing, something had happened to the clear coat. It's not, there are a few areas on the edge of the table where it flakes, but here it's not flaking. It's just sort of, I don't even know how to, it looks like an alligator effect or mottled, not modeled. And so I wanted to see what I could do. So I tried Restore Finish, the Howard Restore Finish product, which I actually very much like using. And then I tried my microfiber towel, and it seemed to help. Remember, if Restore Finish just by itself can help. But then I decided, I thought about steel wool, and I've worked with steel wool before. It can be very effective, but it can also get caught in areas of the furniture, and it may not matter to some of you, but I thought I'd try something else. So I went into I have a stash of sandpaper and emery paper that I use for other projects unrelated to sewing machines, and I went in there and I thought, oh, why don't I try this? Now, this is very fine sandpaper. It's also a wet dry sandpaper. So I'm going to show you what I did and see what you guys think. So I'm going to tilt the camera down and I'll show you the area that I experimented with, and then we're going to do some more. I'll do some more here in the video to show you how I do it. So this area right in here, right, it looked just like this with this sort of alligator effect, modeled, crazed effect, whatever word you wish to use. And you can see it starts to continue up here. But working with the 800 and the Restore Finish, I was able to very gently, I'm not sanding hard. The last thing I want to do is sand through and start removing color or thinning out the veneer, because I am not a furniture refinisher and I don't have any aspirations to be. Some of you are, and God love you, because that's some serious, that's a whole other project and an area of expertise. There are many, there are YouTube channels on such things. But for my purpose, I want to preserve as much of the original finish as I can. So today I'm going to continue with my efforts, and I'll show you, we'll see if in fact this area here to the right, does it respond the same way. I'm hoping it will, and I'll let you guys take a look and watch me go through the process. And by the way, this section here along the front, I don't believe I did that section. You can still see some of that sort of crazed clear coat on top of the furniture here. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking my microfiber towel and I simply put it in on the inside of my sandpaper, and I just rolled it. Now you can get you can get sponges that have this sandpaper that are already there. I couldn't find any that were super fine like this. I might have even had to go get them online, and I wasn't really interested. I thought, well, let me just try it and see if this is working, and we will see if the rest of the table responds to this side. Remember, this side here where my finger is look just like that. So I want you guys to see how I go about doing it. And typically when I use Restore Finish, I always put the product onto the rag I'm using, and then I apply it that way. And because the sandpaper is not going to absorb it, I'm going to very gently, because I want more than I might normally have when I'm just using it, because I'm actually, whoops, that's a bit much. I'm going to be using this, basically wet sanding this section of the table with the product. Again, I'm pretty sure that people have used and continue to use steel wool, and maybe you have other products you use. I've been very careful and cautious with this because if I were to try to use, say, a coarser sandpaper, I could easily remove the, any traces of the original clear coat, and I'm really not, that's not what I want to do. I want to get, I'm going to go ahead and do this little front section here. I'm trying my best to restore the original coat and put some life into that. When you think of conservation, you can go online and watch, people who conserve old works of art, or, in Europe you have lots of people who literally have graduate degrees in that sort of thing. This is simply a sewing table that I'm hoping to revive, right? Come over here and let you guys see this little section right here. You can see a little bit of this modeling. If I zoom, that might help. And you can see right here, there's a little bit of that modeling right there. So I'm gonna zoom back out. And the reason you saw me put this much of the Restore Finish on there, normally I don't have to do that, but when I'm trying to use this fine sandpaper in a sort of a wet sanding technique, in order to do that, I really had to have more of the product. Now, remember, as I mentioned in other videos, I'm not going to leave the product just to sit there. I'm going to actually, let's make sure I've put it everywhere. I'm going to come back and I'm going to wipe up the excess. Again, I've got my cotton. This is an old, if you're just now tuning into this, I'm using an old flannel pillowcase. Now, by doing this, what I'm trying to show you is that you're not just looking at something that's wet. Some of the oils from the Restore Finish, of course, have absorbed. But, when I tried Restore Finish on its own with cotton or even with the microfiber towel, after I wiped it, I was still seeing the crazing. Now, that doesn't mean all the crazing has completely vanished. In fact, right here, you may be able to see the texture of that in the light. You guys see that? You can see the light that's coming through the window and bouncing on there. So again, how aggressive do I want to be? Do I want to keep sanding that? Or was the idea to soften the finish enough to help, help get it to blend in. And maybe I can come back and do a little bit more there. But again, less is more here, because it's this is one of those things that once you commit to it, if I overdo it, well, that's too bad, right? Because I can't really undo removing of that clear coat once it's gone. So I'm coming back. Actually, I can come back with this is just the cotton cloth coming back over there, because I know what I'm doing is, in order to accomplish this, there will be, it doesn't pick up on the camera, but I know that I am, to some degree, I'm removing some of that original varnish. Some of the sheen is off, but very gently. And so even though you can see a texture here, when you're looking at the piece head on, and I'm zoomed in very close for you guys, again, you'll see some of this, but I believe it looks, let me zoom back out, let you see the rest of it, because a lot of this has feathered in, right? So, and I have not added the wax yet. This is just the restore finish, which means we're not finished, sorry for the pun, applying products to the piece. But again, if you look at, looking at this, I believe it's a pretty good improvement. And if you look right here, I didn't come up this far. I'll show you. Let's zoom in again. You guys, you see this little section here where it's crazed, and then as you come down where I did this technique, I'm pleased with that, because again, my goal here, it may not look exactly like it did when someone, I say someone took it home. Chances are back in the day they were delivering these professionally, and not everyone had big SUVs and pickup trucks. Most people had, if they had cars, they had sedans. And so, yeah, let me know what you all think. This is the process I'm using. I'll be finishing up the rest of this table. In fact, before we end this video, why don't we come up here and I'll show you one of the sections where it's not so much crazed as there's some actual loss. I think some of the actual clear coat has peeled off. So I'm going to come over there and see what this process does. It may not do much, I don't know. Now on here on the end, I'm not going to try and pour it. I'm just going to sort of wet it down with the rag here. And then, since I still have some on my 800 sandpaper here, my little makeshift, I'm going to come over here. Now I took my stain marker that I've shown before, and I came in and I went into these areas where I saw what I thought was bare wood exposed, and I came in here with that ink, and now I'm having, again, I'm pulling, the sandpaper to try to smooth over. I don't know if this is actually going to be of much use when I apply. I just put some of the restore finish right on the sandpaper. It doesn't hold much, not like a rag does, but that's okay. So again, my goal is to feather and smooth out these rough edges, which is different than saying, hey, we're going to strip the whole cabinet and give it a full restoration, because that's not really my goal here. If that is your goal, then you will find online, there's a myriad of resources you can go to and use if your interest is in stripping. Just know, it's very important to note something, that if you have never stripped a piece of furniture, it is not, you can take inspiration from videos online, but it's always going to be more work than you believe. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it's not something you're going to do in an hour or two in an afternoon. I remember stripping something many years ago, and it worked, but wow, it took me weeks. So just make sure you understand what you're getting into. So now, let's look in. We'll zoom back in on this edge here. And what do you think? I think it looks better. It feels smoother. Now I can still tell that the coating, is not fully there on the very edge. But again, it's smoother and it's less likely to snag any fabric. I don't really see fabric hanging over this edge. It would be over on this edge over here if it happened. But again, that is the technique that I'm using. If you have a technique that you like to use to bring back your sewing cabinets, put it down there in the comments. Let me know what you think. I think I've got one more video we'll do on the top side where that lovely book matched burl veneer is, and we'll see what that looks like, because very often it's not just the inside of the table that suffers. It's usually the top outside that gets the roughest time of a lifetime of being passed around and moved around and stored God knows where. Thank you all for watching and following along with my channel. If you have not considered donating, please do consider making a donation. You can just click on any of the videos on this channel. They all have a link that says Buy Me a Coffee. And when you click on it, it takes you right to my Buy Me a Coffee page. And you can make any donation you wish, which will help me in my efforts to keep purchasing and keeping out of the landfill sewing tables and sewing machines and whatever else that comes with them, so we can get them overhauled, restored, shared on the channel, and then hopefully in the hands of people who know how to use them, because my sewing skills are quite limited. Thank you all again, and we'll see you next time.